A Captain and a Madman by RazielZonoran. Chapter 7. The Path to Forever. Picard remained on the bridge for the next handful of hours, trying to focus on reports, crew evaluations, a handful of routine communiques from Starfleet, but in truth, he was waiting. Waiting for the call that would trigger the next phase in his duty. That call came a few hours after Data returned to the bridge from his work on the TARDIS herself, and when it did, Picard sat ramrod straight in his chair. LaForgue to bridge, the chief engineer's ever-jubilant tones came through from main engineering, where he had been running a diagnostic even as their guest continued to toil in the holodeck. The doctor reports he's finished constructing the module. He'd like to install it to his ship as soon as possible. Very well, Picard replied, nodding. Have the security detail escort the doctor back to his quarters, Mr. LaForgue, and place his device in a storage case. There was a pause before LaForgue asked, Sir. You heard me, Lieutenant, Picard said firmly. Do not say anything to alarm him, just bring him back to his quarters. Make certain you cut off his cabin from the main computer and internal sensors, we can't allow him to access our systems again. Aye, sir. There was still more than a little confusion in LaForge's voice, but it was tempered by resignation. Picard out. Captain, Riker said, eyes narrowing, what's going on? Turning his attention back to the report on the display in the arm of his chair, Picard's brows lifted, his tone casual. Well, Starfleet has instructed us to take the doctor prisoner, and deliver him, and his vessel, to the Intrepid. It should be arriving in a few more hours, at which point we are to hand both of them over, so they can return with him to Starfleet Command. The entire bridge crew seemed to freeze at that, looks ranging between shock, incredulity and even anger crossing the faces of everyone except Data. Sir, with all due respect, Riker protested, not even trying to hide his own anger. That's against the charter. We should appeal the orders. We have our orders, Commander, Picard replied sharply, cutting short any argument. We will follow them as our conscience dictates. Riker nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing with a mixture of confusion and irritation, mouth twisting. Aye, sir. Lieutenant Worf, Picard continued calmly, settling into his command chair. Given Starfleet obviously considers this visitor a serious threat to our security, we can only assume that the object he has designed is similarly very dangerous. He claims it will render his TARDIS operational, but it could of course serve a far more nefarious purpose. In the interest of ship security, I think it would be best if we moved the device from the holodeck to somewhere nearer a quick evacuation point, should it prove dangerous, such as Shuttle Bay 2. Shuttle Bay 2. But, sir. Worf paused for a moment, brow furrowed, and then understanding started to bloom among the bridge crew, Riker shifting restlessly in his seat as the Klingon security chief continued solemnly. Aye, sir. I will have the dangerous contraband moved to the Shuttle Bay. Given the intruder's vessel is also within Shuttle Bay 2, we would be able to eject both into space if it becomes necessary. Just what I was thinking, Mr. Worf, Picard replied, nodding, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Make it so. For the safety of the security detail, move them out of the Shuttle Bay, have them guard the access points. Send a message to the Intrepid informing them that we have secured their prisoner, and will await their arrival. Mr. Data, are you confident you've completed the modifications in the doctor's TARDIS? Datas turned in his chair to face the captain, nodding. Yes, sir. The doctor seemed confident that the vessel is prepared for his modulator. Excellent, Picard drawled, even as he climbed to his feet again, tugging at his uniform top. Admiral Ross will be pleased. Commander Riker, you have the bridge, but just in case I am not at hand to take the Admiral's next communique, please pass on this message for me. Dash 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 dash. Captain, the doctor greeted, lounging back in one of the chairs. A bit unusual, forcing me back in these quarters, and you come armed, no less. Should I be worried? Stepping inside, Picard quietly instructed the pair of security guards to remain outside. He was indeed armed, a phaser clipped to his belt. Hands folding behind his back, he considered his guest for a moment, drawing in a deep breath as he prepared himself for what was to come. As requested, LaForgue had completely isolated the ship's systems from the doctor's quarters, limiting computer access but also shutting off the room's internal sensors in the process. Doctor, Picard began solemnly, his face heavily lined as he took a seat on the offered chair. "I have been ordered to deliver you to another one of our vessels, and to deny you access to your own. Starfleet Command wishes to speak with you, and to examine your TARDIS in greater detail. They are concerned that your knowledge, and your technologies, could prove a threat to the Federation and her allies. Particularly if either were to come into the possession of one of our enemies. I would like you to know that I would do all within my power to fight these orders," he continued slowly, "to protest to Starfleet Command, but the Intrepid's impending arrival has greatly restricted my options. My concern that is that the faction we are dealing with shall have no scruples about disappearing with you once you are secured, in which case no lawful protest made to the Federation Council will help. In addition, if I arranged for you to leave openly, willfully disobeying my orders, my internal censor logs would implicate my crew in what could be construed as an act of treason. That is a risk I cannot take." The Time Lord considered his words for a long moment, the friendly glimmer fading from his eyes, replaced with chill vacuum. Climbing to his feet, the doctor advanced just a couple of steps, arms folding across his chest, head tilted. "Captain," the doctor said after a moment, his tone without vibrancy or color, "I understand your position, and appreciate your coming to me. But in light of your rather startling honesty, I'd feel terribly guilty if I didn't warn you that I will be doing everything within my not inconsiderable power to escape. From this ship, from the one coming, or from Earth if need be. I won't be going quietly with your people." When Picard turned to face him, his face was studiously blank, the very picture of innocence. "Oh, I'm counting on it." The Time Lord actually looked surprised at that, but then his lips quirked in a smile. "I see. Try and remain comfortable," Picard said casually. "The Intrepid will be arriving in 4 hours to collect you. Your TARDIS has been returned to the shuttle bay, as we cannot confirm it does not pose a threat to this vessel. As long as someone reacts quickly enough, we will depressurize the bay and vent it into space." "I stand warned, Captain," the doctor replied solemnly. "I will think most wistfully of my lost TARDIS, tucked away in that shuttle bay on Deck 12. Deck 11. Your illicitly constructed device is there as well. For security reasons." Naturally." Picard gave a single, curt nod. "Of course, there are security personnel guarding every access point, with orders to stun you should you attempt entry. For their sake, I cannot order them to override Starfleet's instructions. And though you slipped out of here quite easily the first time, they'll be prepared for such tactics now. Without some form of leverage, such as a hostage, it is unlikely you would be able to reach your vessel unchallenged." "A hostage?" The doctor's eyes narrowed a little, flickering to the phaser on the captain's belt, but he shook his head. "No. I have this thing, you see, about guns." "Commendable," Picard noted, before continuing slowly, "but it's either pretend you'll shoot someone, or you'll actually have to shoot several people on your way to the shuttle bay. My way is, you must agree, the lesser of two regrettable evils." The doctor's mouth opened to reply, then closed again. Settling back into his chair, he considered the point, that same mischievous glimmer starting to show itself once more as he gave a single, pensive grunt. HRN. Dash 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 dash. Security to bridge. The guest has taken the captain hostage, and has escaped, I'm guessing, Riker interjected, seated in the center chair on the bridge, not even glancing up from the PADD he was reading. "We'll have someone down to get you out of his quarters soon." Riker out. "Mr. Worf, send out security teams to all decks, apprehend the doctor, and send out a distress call to the Intrepid for good measure." That did not take very long, Worf muttered, even as he sent out the security alert and triggered the distress call. Before turning his attention back to his diagnostic on the targeting scanners, "Perhaps I should double the frequency of training drills." Dash 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 dash. Just outside Shuttle Bay 2, the security team posted at the entrance had their phasers lifted, bodies hunched, but weren't firing. That was because the doctor was, at the moment, hiding behind Picard, arm wrapped around the older-looking man's throat, other hand pressing the tip of Picard's own phaser square to the side of the captain's head. He was trying to give a threatening glower, but given he wasn't really feeling threatening, all he could really do was bare his teeth, scrunch his nose and wriggle his ears, like a cat trying to puff its fur out to look bigger. "Drop your weapons, all of you." The doctor barked, trying his very best to sound menacing and threatening as he kept the phaser pressed to the side of Picard's skull, or I'll phaser his head off. Yeah, I'm a madman with a box. Capable of anything. Rawr. A little overdone, Doctor, Picard murmured just quietly enough for the Time Lord to hear, his hands held up as he raised his voice to address the security personnel. Do as he says. Drop your weapons. Step away from them. Glancing at one another, the security team set their weapons down and lifted their hands, palms outwards, stepping away from the shuttle bay doors one. Scuttling forward, half guiding, half pushing his captive along with him, the doctor slipped into the shuttle bay and whirled around, keeping the captain perpetually between him and the security men. Though they left their phasers on the deck, they slowly followed the Time Lord inside, still presenting their hands but all clearly looking for some opening they could take advantage of. Any sudden moves, I make him dust. Dusty. Take you hours to sweep up all the Picard dust. The fingers of the doctor's free hand snapped, and the TARDIS doors flung open in reply, revealing the pitch-black interior as they neared the doorway. Just beside the TARDIS was a bulky silver case, the dangerous modulator that Picard's orders had ensured were delivered. Would you mind? The doctor muttered. Oh, yes, of course. Awkward given the hostage hold, Picard bent down just enough to grip the handle of the silver case, hefting it with a grunt as he and the doctor both scuttled backwards into the TARDIS, the security staff halting a half-dozen steps from the blue box. Picard tensed a little, fully expecting that it would be at least a slightly cramped fit with both of them stuffed in the small box, but when they backed 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5 steps into the interior without hitting a rear wall, Picard's eyes narrowed with mild surprise. Kick the doors shut, the doctor instructed and, once the captain had closed them with an extended foot, the interior of the TARDIS was plunged into total darkness. The Time Lord released him a moment later, muttering under his breath as he felt his way across the control room in the dark. Curious, Picard noted, keeping completely still since he couldn't see anything but the faint illumination coming from the TARDIS door's windows. Still facing the door, he didn't see just how far the doctor had gone, his attention focused inwards. Perhaps it's just the dark, but somehow there's more room in here than I expected. How long is this going to take, Doctor? How long? The doctor shrugged flippantly, even as he started to carefully fit the coral-like top of the modulator into a slot beneath the TARDIS console, using the sonic screwdriver as a weak source of light. A few minutes. Less. I mean, assuming this even works in the first place. Picard's almost whirled around, but disorientation from the darkness stopped him, and he closed his eyes to fight off a brief wave of nausea. What? You're saying there's a chance it won't? Well, I mentioned that, didn't I? The doctor called back, his voice punctuated by occasional sonic buzzes, both sounds curiously distant. I mean, no plan is 110% guaranteed to automatically succeed on the first go, as much as I like to pretend otherwise, and a good chunk of this entire thing is theoretical, so there'd probably have needed tweaking assuming it was ever going to work in the first place, which it might not have anyway. But of course, since I'm staring down the proverbial barrel, I guess it'll just have to work first go, no error, and a sharp buzz cut through the air. Ow. Dash 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 dash. Worf's sudden shout introduced a new wrinkle into the entire plan. Commander, sensors are detecting the approach of the Intrepid. They are less than 5 minutes from arrival. What? Riker paled. They're supposed to be 4 hours away. They are likely pushing their engines far beyond safety limits. Data theorized. Their current speed is considerably greater than the Intrepid's top-rated velocity. It is quite remarkable. Yeah, Riker muttered, jaw tightening. Wonderful. Commander, Worf announced, we are being hailed. Nodding and drawing in a deep breath, Riker turned towards the viewscreen. On screen. The Excelsior-class ship's bridge appeared a moment later, a balding Starfleet officer occupying the center seat. He didn't look pleased at all, one hand tightly gripping the arm of his chair, the other balled into a fist just beneath his chin. In all likelihood, pushing the engines that hard hadn't been a prospect without risk, and his eyes flashed when he saw the transmission connect. Commander Riker, the officer greeted, lips thinning. I'm Captain Charles Martins, USS Intrepid. We received your distress call just a few moments ago, It's regrettable that you couldn't keep your guest confined to his quarters, but fortunately we're ahead of schedule. We're going to transport security personnel to the Enterprise shortly to assist in securing him and his vessel. Please prepare to receive them and give them whatever assistance they require in securing entry to his ship. With all due respect, Captain, Riker snapped. The Doctor has taken Captain Picard hostage, and Mr. Data has suggested that trying to breach his vessel could be dangerous. We can't just break in without risking. I have my orders, Commander, Martins replied, shaking his head. As do you. We're to secure the vessel and its occupant at whatever cost. We'll be within transporter range in 2 minutes. Have your security people keep an eye on that ship in the meantime. Starfleet's going to hear about your performance, Riker. Martins out. As the viewscreen flicked off, Riker cursed under his breath, climbing to his feet and tapping his com badge. He couldn't directly warn the captain without leaving a suspicious sensor record, but maybe the box wasn't completely soundproof. All hands, this is Commander Riker. The Intrepid is arriving early, and will be transporting security personnel aboard. All hands, prepare to receive the Intrepid personnel in 1 minute. Doctor, we are running out of time. Huh. The Doctor actually grinned, still sonicking the modulator. Finally. Doesn't feel like a normal day unless someone says that. All at once, a low hum filled the air as the modulated began to slow softly, its shimmer muffled underneath the TARDIS console. The glow began to spread throughout the console, then the walls. Picard's protests, his concerns, died away as the sheer size of the control room finally came into view, the corridors branching off in all directions, a mass and volume that were entirely beyond his wildest expectations. This is incredible. Yes, the Doctor replied impatiently. Ooh, bigger, much bigger a box than you thought. We really need to skip all that now, because I have to get this old girl moving right quick before someone out there tries something incredibly stupid and dangerous. I should leave, then, Picard replied, if reluctantly, starting to move towards the exit. No, wait. Stopping dead in his tracks at the urgent shout, Picard whirled back around. The Time Lord was watching one of the TARDIS's hanging monitors and, just as he opened his mouth to speak, the control room gave a sudden, sharp lurch to one side, then to the other. I'm sorry, Captain, the Doctor replied, shaking his head. Too late. Your overzealous friends are currently in the shuttle bay, blasting at us with those phasers. With considerable enthusiasm, I might add. I'm assuming they're from that other vessel you mentioned, but either way, if you open that door, you'll likely be killed, and the blast will get inside and probably just end up disabling my TARDIS all over again. Rather avoid that. But not to worry, I just need to make one quick little pit stop, and then I'll happily drop you off on your ship a few days after we've left. Pit stop. Stepping away from the doors, he climbed up to the control console, peering over the Doctor's shoulder. Where? The only place I can go, the Doctor replied, hand finally closing on one last lever, eyes sliding over to Picard as a wild grin crossed his face. Good grip, now. The lever was pulled, and with a deep roar, like a captive beast finally freed, the time rotor began to pump. Commander, Data said calmly, the Doctor's vessel has vanished from the shuttle bay. I am detecting no signs of it inside, or outside the ship. Stand down, red alert, Riker replied. Get Martin's security personnel out of here, Mr. Worf. With pleasure, sir, Worf growled, but before he could carry them out, his console gave a sharp chime. Commander, there is a priority subspace signal coming in from Starfleet Command. Your eyes only. I don't think we need to bother with the formalities, Mr. Worf. Settling onto the center chair, Riker nodded. Put it on the viewscreen. Admiral Ross's face appeared a moment later, looking quite close to having some sort of cardiac distress. His eyes flickered slightly when he saw that he didn't have Riker alone, as hoped, but he didn't comment on that. Obviously not ready to back down, or skirt the issue for which he'd called. Commander Riker, Ross greeted, his voice all but brimming with ill will. Martins has informed me that you managed to lose your prisoner, and that your captain got himself abducted in the process. I thought the Enterprise's crew were supposed to be the best, but apparently keeping one man in locked quarters for 2 days is entirely beyond you. You read the captain's report on this, Doctor, Riker replied. If anyone could escape from a Galaxy-class starship. Yes, the Admiral muttered, leaning forward. I'm well aware of what Picard said in his report. Just as I'm well aware that Picard protested the Intrepid's arrival from the start. So, I think that this entire far-fetched escape is nothing more than a cover for some ludicrous plan to set him free, against specific orders. An interesting theory, Admiral, Riker replied, brow furrowing. Very troubling, though I can assure you, internal sensor logs will show we did everything in our power to secure the prisoner. You are to take the Enterprise to Starbase 1 for investigation and court-martial, Ross snapped. This is entirely unacceptable. I completely agree, sir, Riker replied calmly. Which is why we'll be filing our own injunction with the Federation Council as soon as we reach Starbase 1. Though we of course did everything we could to stick to the orders we were given, the orders themselves were completely against the Charter, and we won't rest until everything that happened here gets shouted from every rooftop in Starfleet Command. Plenty of room on the docket for another more court-martial. Sir. Ross's face reddened, then purpled, then paled as his hands clenched and unclenched, the options almost being visibly weighed and measured behind his eyes. Your orders to return are rescinded, the Admiral finally growled, every word slow as if being pulled from his lips. Return to your regular patrol. This entire incident is classified. I don't want to hear another word about it so much as whispered across subspace. Is that clear, Commander? Crystal clear, Admiral, Riker agreed, hands folding behind his back as he kept perhaps the best poker face he'd ever managed firmly in place. There was just one more thing. Spit it out, Riker. The poker face on Riker's face, if anything, intensified, his voice quite earnest. I just wanted to make sure we offered our most heartfelt apologies for this regretful tragedy. Dash 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 dash. We're here. There was nothing jubilant in his tone anymore, no excitement. In fact, the doctor seemed subdued, as if he were a condemned man walking to the guillotine. As he stepped past the captain, making a beeline for the exit, he shuffled more than bounded. Come along, Picard. I've extended the TARDIS air shield as far as it will go, we had better get this over with. The world beyond was pitch black, illuminated only by the light emitted from the TARDIS herself, and that only a narrow swath of illumination that puttered out a handful of meters from the vessel. The ground was strewn with rock, dust, and little else, a chilling silence hanging in the air, as if the universe at large had simply ceased to exist. Above them was nothing. No ceiling, no sky, no stars of any kind to lend this world stability, and as Picard followed the Time Lord outside, he felt his heart quicken, and his mouth dry. Doctor, where are we? In your Federation's backyard, actually, relatively speaking. The doctor's lips quirked in a small, nervous smile as he slowly led them from the light shed by the TARDIS's open door, deeper and deeper into the darkness. I was admittedly surprised to discover your people had stumbled on this place, and quite impressed you showed the foresight and maturity not to let it destroy you. Doctor, Picard replied urgently, if we're in Federation territory, there remains a risk that your vessel's arrival will be detected by a nearby starship. That is how we discovered your arrival the first time, after all, by the energy signature it generated when it materialized. Well, I do appreciate your concern, Captain, but that's rather unlikely, the doctor mused, even as he drew a deep, shuddering breath, looking more anxious by the moment. Why is that? Well, for one, the planet actually generates its own rather extensive temporal distortion field, so one little TARDIS wouldn't be noticed. For another, the Federation hasn't been born yet. Neither have humans, for that matter. Or carbon-based lifeforms. He gestured to the surrounding darkness, the ink-black sky above. Or stars. Even with everything he'd seen, Picard wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. How far back are we? Hard to pinpoint, the doctor replied, pulling out his sonic screwdriver, giving the surrounding area a quick scan, then checking the readings. Most methods of measuring time are useless here, but I'd factor it into the billions of years, thereabouts. I see. Those words were rapidly becoming habitual, and something about being possibly the only living being in creation was downright unsettling, so much so, Picard didn't even think to question why this one planet existed. What are we doing here then? The doctor didn't reply to that, stopping dead in his tracks as he continued to stare into the shadows, more agitated than Picard had ever seen him, more so, even, than he had been when he'd first arrived. If he had to find a comparison, he would have thought the Time Lord was expecting some boogeyman to leap out at them. "I know you're out there." The doctor finally called out, head swiveling, entire body turning this way, then that, lips twisting. "And you know full well I'm here too. No son's no excuse, so show yourself and stop hiding." A sudden, booming voice filled the air, resonating like the words of God himself. There was no intention to conceal. The sudden flare of light that burst from the darkness ahead of them was nearly blinding, and both Picard and the doctor had to shield their eyes for a long moment before they adjusted to the glare. The glow emitted all but lit up the world, as bright as day, but more impressive by far was what gave off that light. Only 50 feet away from them, it was little more than an ancient, oddly shaped arch of stone, shimmering sparks and swirls deep within it. Picard recognized it. He had seen only reports, records and historical files. It had originally been encountered, many years before, by the original Enterprise, under Captain James T. Kirk's command. It had been one of the Federation's first recorded brushes with time travel. Though the device was silent, motionless, it seemed almost to shift in size and position, as if the very air around it rippled. Something primal, something instinctive deep in the captain's chest, thrummed with awe and fear, even as he breathed 4 words. "The Guardian of Forever."